Okay, fine. So that brings us to the last question of this particular section. It says that it is based on liquids and solutions, and it says that benzene and naphthalene form an ideal solution at room temperature. For this process, the true statements are. Now this is a moderately difficult question. If we try to examine, let us look at option A. Option A says that delta G is positive, that means greater than 0. Now we know that they are forming an ideal solution, they are undergoing a mixing, and the process is spontaneous in nature. And if the process is spontaneous in nature, delta G for the process must be negative, which is in accordance with the second law of thermodynamics. So option A, we will rule out straight away that this is wrong. Delta G can't be positive, it will be negative. Okay, let's come to option B. Option B says delta S system is positive. Now this option will be correct. Why will it be correct? For the simple reason that we are mixing two liquids and they are forming a mixture after the process. So obviously the entropy that is, let us call it S mixture, would be greater than S of the individual liquids, let us call them solvent. So since the entropy is increasing in the process, delta S system will be greater than 0, which is positive. So B is the correct option. C is an interesting option because we know that in an ideal solution, the value of delta H is 0. The value of delta H will be 0 because there will be no change in the forces of attraction. So delta H mixing will be 0. And since no heat is being given to the surroundings or being withdrawn from the surroundings, so delta S surrounding will also be equal to 0. C would also be your correct answer. I would say, personally, my feelings that this particular option, that is delta S surroundings, makes this question very, very interesting. Otherwise it would have been a fairly easy question. It still is an easy question, but this makes it slightly moderate, and this is what something JEE is known for, to test you around the fundamental concepts. So B, C and D will be the correct answers for this question. So that completes our section of more than one correct type questions. Let us now move over to the next section, which is the integer value correct type questions. In this section there are 5 questions and all of them have a single digit integer answer, which can be between 0 to 9. Let's look at the questions one by one. Let's start off with question number 16. Question number 16 is again a mixture of gaseous state and atomic structure, 2 chapters. It says that the atomic masses of helium and neon are 4 and 20 AMU respectively. So we have been given their atomic masses. We have been asked to calculate the de Broglie wavelength of helium gas is at minus 73 degrees centigrade is m times that of de Broglie wavelength of neon at 727 degrees centigrade. So what exactly does the question say? The question says that if the de Broglie wavelength, that is lambda of He, is equal to m times lambda of neon, then we are required to find this value of m. So basically we need to calculate the ratio of lambda He upon lambda Ne. So let's say that the value of m is equal to lambda He upon lambda Ne. Okay, so let's quickly recall the formula of this lambda de Broglie wavelength. The de Broglie wavelength is given by h upon root over 2m ke. alright, where H, as we all know, stands for the Planck's constant, 2 as in a constant, m the mass of particle, and Ke the kinetic energy of the particle. Okay, so if we are to calculate the ratio of lambda of helium to lambda of neon, basically that can be written as the ratio of root under mass of neon into kinetic energy of neon, because it is inversely proportional to mass and kinetic root of mass and kinetic energy. H and 2 will be constants, upon mass of He into kinetic energy of He. I hope that makes sense to all of you. Let's go to the next slide and see the solution. So carrying forward our discussion, the value of m will now be equal to the mass of neon, and kinetic energy, as we all know, is directly proportional to temperature in Kelvin. So we can write temperature of neon over here upon the mass of helium into the temperature of helium. All these values, mass of neon, temperature of neon, mass of helium and temperature of helium, let me remind you once again that both these temperatures must be in Kelvin only, have been provided in the question. So now what we got to do is we simply have to substitute their values in the question, and mass of neon, if we look at it, has been given as 20. Okay, temperature of neon in Kelvin will be equal to 1000. Mass of helium has been given as 4, and temperature of helium in Kelvin would be 200. So if we carry out the calculations, this will come out to be, this 0 and 0 will get cancelled, this 2 will become cancelled 20, and it will become 10. 10 into 10 will be 100 upon 4, that will be root under 25, and root under 25 will be equal to 5. That will be our answer for the question, which is an integer. It will be 5. Let's go to next question. Next question says EDTA, that is ethylene diamine tetraacetate ion. What is the total number of NCOO? This is a fairly interesting question. Bond angles in COEDTA. Now, as you all must be knowing that EDTA, that is ethylene diamine tetraacetate ion, is a hexadentate ligand. That is, it has 6 donor sites, and this is the manner in which it bounds octahedrally to the cobalt atom, that is the central metal atom. These are the 2 nitrogen atoms which bind, one along here and the other along here, and the rest of them are the 4 oxygens. One oxygen over here, one oxygen over here, one oxygen here, and the other oxygen here. So that gives us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 oxygen atoms and 2 nitrogen atoms, that is 5 and 6. If this will be an octahedral geometry, and if I try to draw it in a simpler fashion, what you will get is that there will be N, O, and you can assume an O and O in this manner, an octahedral kind of a geometry. And if you look at the number of NO bonds, so with one nitrogen atom there will be one NO bond, 2 NO bond, 3 NO bond and 4 NO bond. With each nitrogen there will be, we can consider drawing it again. Suppose let us say that it's an octahedral geometry. Okay, let's draw it over here. It's an octahedral geometry, and an octahedral geometry will be something like this. This will be your central metal atom, cobalt, and there will be 2 nitrogens and 4 oxygens. Okay, 2 nitrogens and 1 2 3 4 oxygens. So see, each nitrogen will have one NCOO angle, second NCOO angle. There are 4 oxygens, so there will be 4 angles for each nitrogen atom. One for this, one second, this one will be third, and this one will be fourth. So 4 for one nitrogen and 4 for other nitrogen. That gives us a total of 8 NCOO angles. Answer to this question will be 8, which is an integer. Let's come to next question. This again is a question of organic chemistry. It says the total number of carboxylic acid groups present in the product P will be. Okay, so we have to carry out this reaction and we have to examine the products, and finally we have to look out that how many COOH groups are present in the final product, that is P. Let us consider the reaction step by step and consider what its products will be. See, first of all, what's happening is that you are mixing it with H3O plus. You are carrying out a hydrolysis followed by heating. So what will happen with H3O plus is that these anhydride groups will open up and you will get COOH in their place. So after the step 1, your product will be, after first step, your product will be a benzene ring, sorry, not a benzene ring, 6-membered ring with a double bond over here, double bond O, and we'll get these anhydrides will open up, we'll get an OH over here, and we get an OH over here, a carboxylic acid, that is basically. Okay, fine. Now if you try to observe closely, each of these two acids, this acidic group COH and this acidic group COH, is a alpha beta keto acid, and beta keto acid, this is also a beta keto acid and this is also a beta keto acid. Beta keto acids on slight heating undergo decarboxylation. So now what would happen is that this CO2 from here and this CO2 from here, both these CO2 groups get removed. Fine. And what we are left with is the product. This will happen on the completion of first step, that is hydrolysis followed by heating, and we are left with this simple compound. It undergoes decarboxylation, that is -2 CO2, and we get this as the product. Okay, so this was after the first stage of the reaction. Let us come to the second stage of the reaction. In the second stage of the reaction, what we are carrying out is our product after the first stage was this compound, 6-membered ring with a double bond, and another 6-membered ring with 2 keto groups. This is our product after the first stage. And then we are carrying out ozonolysis in the presence of H2O2. Now this is a classical example of oxidative ozonolysis, and in oxidative ozonolysis your double bonds will break and you will get one COOH group over here. Had it not been oxidative ozonolysis, we would have had aldehyde as a product. Okay, but since it is oxidative ozonolysis, the aldehyde would get oxidized to the carboxylic acid. So we'll get COH group over here, COH group over here, and the remaining product, that is double bond O and double bond O. So there will be 2 COOH groups in the final answer. Thank you.